All right, everybody, thanks for coming today. My name is Kyle Berry. I'm a program director at the National Institute of Building Sciences. You're here for a session on how we can utilize industrialized construction, prefabrication, and other advanced delivery methods to build faster and smarter. So we're going to have a great discussion with our experts up here, diving into the benefits and challenges of these technologies and processes, as well as discussing opportunities to deploy these technologies at scale, as well as diving into regulatory considerations, current consumer and customer sentiment for these technologies, as well as thinking about sort of what we need for the workforce for the future to really sort of see these opportunities succeed. So before we start, I'm going to do a quick introduction to our experts up here. I'll give them some time to introduce themselves, but first, we've got Eric Benavides. Is that correct pronunciation? He's the founder and CEO of Fortinos Home Systems. Eric has over 40 years of construction. He's built hundreds of homes, and he's now at the helm of Fortinos, driving nationwide growth in affordable housing solutions. Next, we have Colby Swanson, who's the built environment partner at ADL Ventures. Colby is a serial entrepreneur and construction innovation strategist with 25 years experience working across the real estate spectrum. His career evolved from stick framing homes in high school to class action building failure forensics to strategic leadership at multiple corporations. His recent focus has been on growing the industrialized construction ecosystem by supporting startups, corporations, and government entities to optimize for prefabrication. Most recently, he's been leading the military's entry into industrialized construction space during his time at ADL. To speak a little bit about my background, I've been with NIPS for just about 8 years. During that time, I served as the director for the NIPS Whole Building Design Guide, as well as the former staffing liaison to the NIPS Offsite Construction Council, which NIPS founded in 2013 to serve as a research and education center for all things related to offsite construction. I've also supported 2 research papers for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, both of which focused on national research roadmap on industrialized construction for housing, as well as the past, present, and future of HUD's role in promoting industrialized construction for housing, specifically around how housing can alleviate sort of the housing affordability crisis. So to speak a little bit about our session here, taking a quick look at some of the data that we have. While we discuss these technologies of the future, the future is already fairly standard elsewhere. In the U.S., permanent modular construction accounts for 4% of total construction value, which comparing to a country like Japan at 15%, or Sweden at a staggering 45%, really sort of leaves us in the dust. 1 in 3 American households is now considered cost burdened by housing, and we have to stop treating these technologies as bespoke projects and more as systematized products. This applies whether we're building fully volumetric modules or strategically integrating prefabricated 2D components into wall panels and trusses. So really what we want to talk about here is 2 words, speed and certainty. Industrialized methods allow for parallel processing. While the site's being cleared, critical components can be fabricated in a controlled factory. And when done right, some of these methods can save up to 30-50% of project schedules. So by shifting our mindsets, we can eliminate massive cost overruns that have become standard in traditional construction. So to move the needle on affordability and increase market share for these products and methods, we have to address these unique opportunities and systemic barriers to transform innovative concepts into a resilient national industry. So just to frame our time here, I'm going to give Eric and Colby some time to introduce themselves, their thoughts on the market, these different products and systems, as well as the current work that they're doing. And then we'll spend some time having a guided discussion about sort of the opportunities, challenges, barriers, et cetera, how we think we can get these technologies deployed at scale. So with that, Eric, why don't I turn it over to you to get us started?
Thanks, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes.
Yeah.
So appreciate everybody coming from bed and cleaning up today. I'm from Dallas. As we were talking about, I'm in the penalized off-site industry. So I come from a building background. About 5 years ago when COVID was happening, I wanted to, we thought people working from home was going to be a big deal and staying in backyard workrooms. And as a builder, I didn't really want to pour slabs and things like that. So I started working on panelized construction. But I was a rookie in what offsite really was. I didn't really have any factory experience, kind of learned it along the way. So the approach that I took is as a builder, what would I want to supplement me to help me be a better builder? One of the things that was important to me though is, as a custom home builder, I really saw the market in the affordable aspect of it. And so that's kind of where I've focused over the last few years. So what I've developed is a approach to construction that's a little bit of hybrid of both. So it's not modular volumetric, it's a little bit of panelized, but I took a different route. So my panels, imagine, are, we've heard Legos and things like that. So I started with a different approach where I started with the panels first, and then you can use my panels to configure certain houses for certain sizes and certain performances. What I mean by that is a typical modular or panelized construction. You take a set of plans to a factory and say, hey, make a module for me using these plans, and they would give you something custom. Well, I started with the panels first. The reason I did that is multiple reasons. First of all, that's where you can get some really true industrialized opportunities, because I don't really know what the house is going to be as it goes out the door or out the factory to go to the job site. Another thing that was important to me is, could we get a mortgage? I didn't want to build sheds or something that wasn't, was going to be a challenge. Another thing that was important, I didn't really want to develop any kind of new type of products out there. As a builder, I'd seen challenges with showing some, 3D printed housing, and they all have their purposes, but I got tired of fighting. I was using a SIPS panel originally, and I got tired of fighting everybody over explaining what that was in engineering. So when I put my panels together, I did a specific size based off of the yield. So it's a 6 foot wide panel by 9 foot tall. I wanted a product that everybody was familiar with. Construction crews, manufacturing crews, the supplies, chains, and everything else. So my panels are built out of 2x4s and a zip wall and things like that. Another thing that was important to me was I wanted to be as complete as possible. So my houses have foundations that are panelized, so I'm going to be either a crawl space or a pier and beam. And again, it's starting to hopefully develop that, this is a shell, shell. So the outside of my walls have siding and zip wall and windows and insulation and sheetrock, and my interior walls have sheetrock and doors, and my roofs have insulation and sheetrock and decking. There are some limitations to that though, so I can't come to me and say, hey, I want a house that's this size by this size. If it comes in a 14 by 6 foot increment, then we can sell it to you, or a design around it. So how do you get a panel though that's completely enclosed? And that was where one of the issues came in, is how do I get this inspected? How do I didn't put any mechanicals in this. We work off of chases and access panels. And so we went to what's called the ICC, which I've heard that there's a product going through that. I went through that about 2 years ago. It was a little bit challenging, a lot of engineering, and so I've been issued an ESR, which is what basically means from the ICC, it's a approved panel. So I'm a building product. I don't fall under modular, I don't fall under actual manufactured housing, which also means that when my products are sold out of the factory, it's a nationwide product. And so there are some limitations to it, there are some benefits of it. I want to stay focused on the affordable housing market, which means smaller ADUs. I'm not going to be the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, well, I do have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but we're not going to be garages and things like that. And I'm okay with the sacrifices that I made to do that, because it's all about how do we get affordability. One of the things that'll happen, I'll turn it over to Colby and then answer some more questions, is we had a lot of requests here in California. So we actually went back in and went through the re-engineering process, and we changed all of the framing, the structure itself, to light gauge steel. So again, using the same ESR, the same size panels, the same windows and everything else, it's all light gauge steel. What that allowed us to do is do 2 stories. We've re-engineered everything and redesigned. It's all at the ICC going through approval. We can take in the wildfire urban interface. We here in California, we're up to 160 mile-an-hour winds and seismic heat. We also have Title 24 aspects to it, but it's not a finished product. So we work hand in hand with the local contractors and the local builders. So we're a material supply house, we're not necessarily a builder. So we'll get into that a little bit further, but that's kind of gives some context of who's out here.
Awesome. I like standing up. I like a microphone because I cannot hear. So maybe just check in. Is it okay if people just ask questions along the way? So,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Let's open this up and answer questions sooner than later. I'd rather not just talk to these guys. They know my stick. So Colby Swanson, I make this real quick. First half of my career was fixing broken buildings and getting involved in a lot of class action lawsuits. Somebody's screwed up, because there's a lot of people, and lawyers and technicians are coming in trying to unwind what happened and how do we fix this. And I was on the science side of it, I was not on the legal side, very clear. So I was investigating and then writing mitigation plans. You do that long enough in our industry, you start seeing patterns that become very evident of, wow, this is why we get the buildings we get. There's a lot of behaviors and incentives that are just built into the system. And I just, quite frankly, got tired of fixing all that. And I could have made a career out of it. So how do we get out of this mess? How do we change the way the industry operates? And so the point of ADL Ventures, where I work, is we are helping 3 legacy sectors rewire for the future. So that is the construction industry, the energy, and the transportation. I'm done.
All right.
Well, yeah, so and maybe I'll just say a little bit. So we're not a product company, we're advisors to those sectors. And so stakeholders come to us and say, hey, we think we're in trouble, or can you help us figure out how do we get into that future? And a lot of people are talking about AI, so we get people coming to us and going, how do we bring AI into our construction practice or our transportation business? So we have those types of strategic, that's basically what we're doing, is strategic advisory for companies. So we don't take any, like we look at the industrialized construction space as like a buffet, really yummy buffet with lots of different options on the table. Not picking winners, we like them all. Our approach is anything that moves work, labor, and materials from the job site to a factory is a good thing.
Who are most?
Fair enough? Yeah.
Who are most of your clients?
Who are our clients?
Yeah, architects, engineers,
No.
builders.
That's a good question. I'll tell you right now, I mean, some of it I can't tell you who they are, but generally speaking, larger developers
Okay.
who have large portfolios that are trying to program a new delivery method.
I see.
They're like, we're tired of stick building everything, but we can't figure out that buffet. There's just too many options. Can you help us sift through all that and create a roadmap? The other big client I can't talk about is military. So there's a huge effort going into the DoD to rebuild a lot of our bases, both continental and offshore. So we are engineering the Modular, which is a volumetric solution, where Eric's got a panelized solution. Again, just the buffet. There's no right answer, but they're interested in a modular barrack. And so we're designing that, engineering that system, and connecting, looking at the ecosystem and telling them, here's who the players are. It's quite an involved process, because to meet the military's needs and the scale at which they need product, it's bigger actually than the industry can even provide right now. So it's a great project because we can kind of together, the military and the ecosystem of private companies, build on our capacities and deliver to the client. So.
Well, let's stay up there, Colby, so go ahead and ask me a question. We've talked a lot, Colby and I, about the issue of scale within this industry and how it's been so difficult over the years for this industry to achieve scale. And so, Colby, can you share some of your thoughts on what we need to do to help the modular industrialized construction sector achieve scale?
Yeah, it's a loaded question because it depends on the technology. So like John's technology and Eric's technology, both are panels, but they're servicing different sectors. And so how you scale inside of those sectors is very different. But let's just I'll talk about volumetric modular. And I'm going to carve off HUD housing. So if you know the code world, there's HUD housing code, which is what everybody refers to as manufactured housing. That they're doing quite well. They've industrialized their business model. They have products, you go order off a menu, just like walking into a restaurant. There's 140 factories around the country. They got it down. The sector that's probably not doing as well is the IRC-IBC code, which is the permanent housing or multifamily or any building that you typically see, going up in stick framed or metal or concrete. That side of it is struggling, quite honestly. The modular industry, biggest problem. Yeah, something went on. Sorry, we don't have any slides. The biggest problem there is volume and productization. So when you think about that permanent construction space, nobody orders off a menu. Developers don't say, hey, what do you got? I'd like to order some of those things. They say, this is my lot. I need to optimize the lot and get as many apartments or as many whatever it is on that lot. And so it's a very custom, bespoke process. That does not line up with manufacturing, which is what modular manufacturing is. It's manufacturing, it's not construction. And so until we get more productization, I like that word, John used that, in the sort of standardized apartments, standardized dorms, standardized, what else? Anything that a hotel room, take a hotel room, a dorm, and an affordable studio apartment. Imagine those in your head and tell me what's the difference. They have a bathroom, they have a kitchenette, they got a room. That's it, right? There's only so many ways you can like skin that room, that layout. There are literally millions of that thing made every year. And we don't have a way to the industry hasn't quite figured out how to aggregate that demand and productize that so that we could so factories say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go invest in a factory and spend $20 million to deliver that product. We just have a pipeline problem.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric.
Excuse me, Colby. My bad. My next question is going to Eric. I'm already ahead of myself.
I'll sit down.
Let's think about shifting to this factory environment. It changes the job descriptions of a builder. It changes the job descriptions of some of the higher end skill folks. What are some of the primary skill gaps we think we need to address across the entire supply chain to ensure these types of advanced products aren't compromised by traditional practices?
So I think there's two aspects to that question. One would be in the factory itself, and then of course what the on-site is. Did a great job on the factory. I won't really get too much into that. It's modular is building a house inside of a factory, which is great because it's precision and cranes, weather, and things like that. But the challenge is, as Kobe was explaining, it's hard to get that product synchronized with the stick-built construction. And I think that's where a lot of the push is coming back with because it just doesn't fit into their system. A lot of reasons why. You're a developer, you need to get some interim loans, you need to change on the fly because people didn't like your model and you need to add 4 bedrooms, and that's just going to be one of the inherent challenges of it. But there's especially now in the environment, with the trades in the field, also the aging trades of plumbers and electricians. There's just a lot of aspects in the field that need to be addressed, as well as the factory. We've heard a lot today about optimization of AI and actual equipment and shipping and things like that. So of course I'm partial to penalized construction because I think that it makes a lot of sense in all those aspects in the whole supply chain. So one of the things it also does, which Modular does as well, is you can train somebody a little bit different. You can train, I believe you don't have to be a licensed electrician or a licensed plumber when you're in a factory, which kind of spans that opportunity. And of course, if you're doing it in the factory, then you're eliminating a lot on the side as well. One of the challenges that I've seen as a builder is we're talking the United States. You've got snow over here, you've got tornadoes over there, you've got seismic over here, you've got wind over there and sun. I keep hearing we need to have all these same building codes, and I agree with that. There's so many different environments of the soils, the people, the languages. It's pretty extensive. So if we can get back to a different product, help make an easier product, then I think we can take advantage of the labor shortages that we're seeing. And of course, anything that we can take out of the field and put into the factory will help. Who knows? It may be this Optimus, swinging a hammer before too long, and that's really kind of upon us. It's amazing to be living in that environment. But yeah, I think labor is going to be a big issue. The workforce, because there's actually the other portion of the workforce is the people who need to buy houses, and so that's where the affordable housing comes in as well. So workforce is just across the board going to be a challenge, and we're going to have to think out of the box with that solve.
Yeah, I want to build on a little bit. one thing I think that there's oftentimes like this winner take all mentality about the workforce, like, oh, the modular guys are taking all the work. I mean, it's a fallacy. It's not true. We know that the trend on skilled labor is this way. It's not going to turn around anytime soon. It's going to be decades of just slow decline. So we're losing that trade base, and we have to do to counteract that is develop products that have engineering baked into them that make it easier for them to be installed. So that you don't have to be a trained frame. I was a framer. I was in high school and I needed a job. I shouldn't say I'm a framer. There are people who spend their entire lives framing and they're framers. I was just, working a job. But that is not something you just pick up and know how to do. I built 50 houses, and by the 50th one, I was okay at it. But if you can have a wall system that you don't need to pull out the tape measure and look at a blueprint and, figure out how to cut that angle, like all that's already done, and you're just taking part A and connecting it to part B, and you have a cable lock and you turn it, 180 degrees and you're done. That's, to the labor issue, it's the only way out. So we have to move towards smarter building components. And that's why I say it's a buffet, right? There's no answer. It's not just modular, it's not just panel, it's not just 3D printed. And it's gonna be a long time before Tesla's Optimus robot, is that Tesla? Yeah, before you got robots walking around on job sites, that's not gonna happen. One thing I do wanna make sure I get to do is I wanna give you actual pricing. Like, how much does it cost to build a modular building? I think that's sort of some juicy stuff there. Maybe nobody in the room cares. Does anybody in the room want to know how much this stuff costs? Hand one up quick. Okay, maybe not right now, but
we can dive over. Go ahead, sir.
I'm kind of derailing us. But is this fine?
Go for it.
Okay, let's do this. There's a project in Berkeley, California. It's 10 stories. It's a dorm, and it's priced out right now for $520 a square foot. That sound like a lot of money in Berkeley to anybody? It does? It is. That's a really good price.
Yeah.
You know what you pay for a framer in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Like me, like a framer who's just okay, $100 an hour.
That's still cheap.
It's
Say more than
nuts. And so this project I just described is a modular project where they're building the 50% of the building is getting built in a factory nowhere near San Francisco, where you're paying those kind of labor rates. Sad part is they're getting made in China. This is going to happen more and more. And I say sad, it's just the construction industry is the last bastion of like white collar workers, and it's blue collar, it's everything, and it's manual labor, and it's millions of people who it employs. It drives a large percentage of our GDP. As we start to productize buildings, it's going to get easier and easier to offshore that. It's going to get easier and easier to just put those products, make them somewhere else, put them in a container and ship them over. And that's starting to happen. So, $520. That building, stick built, normal, probably, yeah, that's what everybody wants to know.
At 10 stories, you can't stick built.
What's that?
At 10 stories, you cannot stick built. At 10 stories.
Yeah, so it's going to be
it's going to be
a superstructure, concrete or steel,
right.
But it's all going to be done on site. No prefabbing, just
Right.
pour the concrete, weld the steel.
Yeah.
That project is probably going to go up into the $800 square foot. I mean, this is Berkeley, California. This is on campus. This is about as expensive of a market you can build in. Let's go to North Carolina. A 5-story apartment. Like, you see these all over the country. Like, sometimes they have like retail on the front, on the first level, and then it's just like 4 stories of apartments. That product, there's a company in North Carolina, there's a reason why I picked North Carolina, who is delivering that product for $160 finished a square foot out of a modular factory. It's wood framed. The one in Berkeley was steel. It's in North Carolina, kind of not in downtown anything, so it's much cheaper land. $160 is crazy good price. To stick frame that right now, they're 200, 210, 220. So they're actually getting it for lower cost. Now, how they're doing this is that North Carolina factory is produced a product that it produces over and over and over again. So it is a vending. And it is a IRC, IBC product. It is not a HUD code building, right? So they've now achieved volume, and they've got to a point where they can take out all that, they can get the economies of scale, they can take out all the inefficiencies. And so that price point, to your, John, you said it earlier, buildings are going to start decreasing in cost. Now, it's not going to be perceptible to most people because the housing industry is going to take a little bit longer for that to happen. And that's actually your space. So I'll let you talk about housing costs.
So housing costs, and I don't really know about stick build. When you start putting panelized products together, now remember we're talking about the same 6 foot by 8 foot panel. Like a steel, the last house that I priced out for a 2-story duplex, over under 800 square foot, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, for California market. Out our factory door is going to be around $55 to $60 a foot out of Dallas. So that's the foundation walls and the roof and the interior walls. Of course, you got to put everything on site as well. So we could ship everything from the factory and basically Home Depot, if you would, for probably around all the way through wood floors. Now, I deal with Dallas numbers, so this is probably a complete shock to a lot of everybody here. But we could probably ship everything that you would need at $100 a foot. Well, let me back up. That would be FOB at the dock in Dallas. So it's typically around $3,500 a truck to get all the way out here. But one of the buildings we sent to, it was a 1,680 square foot duplex. It was kind of an H-shaped. We sent it to South Dakota. It took 4 trucks to go up there. That was about $3,000. But that's a one-way haul, so it's a little on the pricier side. So those would be the numbers that I would be quoting for some of the products that we have. Insides, that's completely finished out by the client. So you could put granite or you could put whatever you'd like. We stick with the shell.
So is your market like do-it-yourselfers, like pro do-it-yourselfers?
So we want to. So when we have all of our panels have been done in Revit. So we actually kind of automatically have digital twins. Everything's been designed in 3D. So all the panels are in Revit. And then when we design the houses, all we do is just import more panels. So the way we land out our actual floor plans is even though I've been a stick builder my whole life, we just assign codes. So if we want to make a house bigger, we add some more numbers, and the house gets bigger, it turns left, turns right, and we add the panels. You can only do that with a panelized construction process. Yes?
When you're doing that, you said you just pretty much stick to the shell. What about like plumbing and I ask because I'm actually interested in something like this in buying land in South Carolina. I'm from North Carolina, and so getting like a second property or something, and it's just like it's getting my wheels turning as far as like the cost for plumbing and electrical and things of that nature. And like with your product or any other product, kind of like that, almost like the Boxable Casita or something.
Yeah, Boxable's a great company. I've toured and know some people over there, but it's the folding house.
Yeah.
So I really tried to stick with wanting a nationwide product that could empower builders. And so let me answer this question. So who our client is I like I don't like this approach, but on the pharmaceutical businesses, right? Affordable housing is going to be niche. It's going to be leftover lots, infill, ADUs, things like that. I mean, there could be neighborhoods out there, but when you're trying to deal with, Lennar or places like you can't touch that. So the approach that we're taking once we get everything back from the ICC is we want to. Social media is just the way to do everything. So we want to get to those clients, and then like the pharmaceutical business, you show them the medicine. Half the time, I don't even know what the medicine is. It tells you what it's doing bad to you. And then they go ask the doctors. So we want to go to the public, get people involved. And I was really happy to hear, I forget who was speaking about that the public was asking questions and learning. And so I think that's the way to go because I think, tiny home market, it's a little bit different, but there's the top, I just did this the other day, the top 5 tiny home influencers on YouTube, they have 11 million followers. I mean, they get about, just the ones that I know, the one company, he gets 11 million transactions a month. So between them, they're getting, maybe 50, 60 million transactions. So to answer your question though, what I've done is I just accept local. There's local contractors, there's local codes, there's local, even in Texas, you don't have to be a licensed contractor to build a home. But a lot of places you do. So you just go through your plumbing rough, and then we provide chases for everything. So local contractors, local inspections, because we just go to a regular permit. You don't. There's no kind of special products because of the way the ESR works. We're a product, and then we leave chases everywhere else. Everything else is low voltage, so you don't really expect low voltage. We pull all of the, which is a cool product of the kinetic switch. You know about that. So one of the things, how do you do the wiring? Well, what's really cool about it is all the fans, the exhaust fans and lights is all low voltage products. And so we just pull low voltage wires and where you don't even go through inspections. So we still run a lot of that stuff behind crowns and in access points as well. But there's a thing called, really cool, I'll share with you, called a kinetic switch. On your grill, you push the button and a little magnet makes a spark. Well, they have switches now. That's just, there's no power, there's no battery, there's no electric. There's a smart switch in the control panel. And you have a fan, and you just click the switch. You can put it 3 ways, 4 ways, dimmers, and it doesn't even require wires. And so there's a lot of new technologies out there that can do it. But for the most part, we're going to use chases, access points, and use local contractors to meet all the local codes, across the United States. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad you brought up the sort of social media acceptance, how we get people more accepting of these different delivery methods. Just speaking of your experience, you mentioned social media. Let me ask this question in 2 parts. What are some of the changing sentiments you've seen over time, if any, towards some of these products where there may have been hesitation in the past? And then secondly, what have been some of the sort of more interesting ways in which we've found that consumers are willing to accept some of these advanced delivery methods and products? And I guess, Eric, I can start with you.
Sure. From what I've seen and the feedback that we've received over the past couple of years, and we're definitely a startup, has been there's so much education out there, or there's so much available education out there. So Kobe was saying we go the do-it-yourselfers. Well, I think there are a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there because of the advent of AI and Google and being able to run down. They just need a little bit of information. And if you're wanting generational wealth and you're in the you need a house that's $150,000, who's going to build that for you? So people out there really learning to educate themselves via social media. There's again, of course, I'm not a huge social media that reads the comments, but there'll be something I'll read, and my wife, she'll read all the comments, and that's just not me, but there's so much education in the comments themselves, so I do it on LinkedIn and things like that. But I really think that there's just so much information out there now that people are more comfortable making those decisions. And then really, who are you trusting? Who do you call? If you've been in a fire, that's one of the things that I kind of appealed to me with, rolling our system out online is who do people call? I mean, if you got FEMA money, you got insurance money, and you were part of the fires, there's literally, I don't know who they call. So hopefully we can empower people to at least have the right amount of questions to ask the right questions to whoever they help them out, whether it's a builder or a remodeler or even the insurance company. How much is my house worth? Those are a lot of things out there that I think people need help with.
And Colby, I'll ask you the same question, but I'd be interested as well, from your perspective, working in the public sector too, getting public sector buy-in and accepting some of these products as well. So you can start with the first question, but I'm also interested in your perspective on the.
There's 3 questions.
Yeah, you got to go 3.
So influencers. I think it's important to recognize that the construction industry has moved from a service industry, right, where you just called a bunch of trades and builders and you didn't know anything. You just hoped they knew what they were doing. To now, it's getting more and more digitized and productized, where people are we're sort of democratizing buildings, such that you don't have to know anything, and you can just go into ChatGPT now and be like, I want to build a building, give me all the parts that I need to do my house, and it'll just spit out a list for you. And then you can say, you know what, I don't want to just do all the raw materials, I want to do it in panels. Who are the top 5 panel producers that are within 50 miles of one? And it'll just spit that out. And then you say, okay, how do I put those panels together? And I need to know about the plumbing because the panel doesn't have the plumbing in it. Or I got to put flooring down. And it can just tell you all this stuff. And the more we think about buildings as these products, and we break it down into that, the more anybody can get into that business. And it's really, really been a powerful thing. I think that's the sort of social media power of just information flow. What was the second part of the first question.
So the changing consumer sentiment, and also just
Specific stories on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So okay, so the younger generation is totally into this. They love being able to go build a house online and then order it online. Totally comfortable with that. The older generation is like, no way. Like, I'm going to get into a car, I'm going to drive down to the neighborhood, and I'm going to go look at the bottles and walk through them and feel it. And that's a huge difference in generational, and it's shifting towards obviously what you've been hearing the last two panels. It's moving more and more to comfort with buying an entire building and not just your house. Like, I want to do a 50-room apartment. Like, I might be able to do that. Like, any of us in this room, we just put our heads together and we've never done it before. We could maybe figure out how to do it and have a shot at making some money. So I think that there's a generational thing there, but there's also just a lot of stigmas from the past that are starting to die out, which is mobile homes. I mean, have just been a real anchor on the modular industry for decades, and that's going away. In fact, the younger generation are like, yeah, I want my house or whatever it is I'm getting made built in a controlled environment, and not the weather and rain and mud. Build it in a factory. That's way smarter than building it on site. So there's this complete switch where the site-built home is why would you do that? Build it in a factory, the younger generation. Now, that's not 100% true across the board, but I think that's a huge, that baggage of the modular mobile home is shifting. It's gone. Now, the third question.
So the public sector buy-in. We've got, we're here in California. We've got a lot of different agencies here. What have you seen on the public sector side that maybe has changed folks' minds on industrialized construction?
I think there's a huge problem with information overload. So it's hard to, now we have all this stuff online, we have all this data, the public can find it. It's hard to know what to believe, which is the best product. How do I know that John or Eric's got they really did all the testing? And I think that's the sort of challenge for the public sector, is that it's like the cereal aisle. I love using this analogy. You go down the cereal aisle now and you're buying cereal for your kids. It's like, how many damn options of puffed rice do we really need? I mean, multiple aisles sometimes, floor to ceiling, both sides, every flavor. It's just too much. And I think that's sort of what's starting to happen with all these proliferation of products in the construction space. And as a consumer or a developer, or you just have a harder time to sift through it all. And so I think that's going to be there's a lot of opportunity for somebody like Gibbs to come in and have very clear standards and specifications. We need to double down on that and make sure that it's it's not it's just not a free-for-all out there.
Well, we talked a lot too about projects that have a lot of repeatability, things like dorms, barracks, things like that, are great opportunities to pursue these advanced delivery methods. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, I think I think a really great place for what he's working on is the ADU market. I don't know if that comes on, but that's a highly repeatable, simple, digestible market. Is it still going up? Is it?
Yeah, actually, I pulled some information not too long ago about that, and of course, I use chat and rock like everybody else, but I did do a little bit of research. I was really surprised that 1 out of every 5 houses in California was an ADU. I mean, if anybody can dispute that, kind of let me know. So that's a pretty significant number. And then, of course, entire states are changing. So that came from SB 9, I believe. Florida's about to vote on it. Austin, Texas already has it. I'm really getting into share lot housing. So getting state mandates coming in and saying, hey, you have to be able to use lots in multiple, split the lots. And that's where I really think that smaller houses, ADUs, it's not just a flash in the pan. It's really going to be one of the main sources of revenue for cities as well. Dallas has been finished for years and years. How do you bring more growth? There's only one way: split the lots there, do some rebuilds. Now, a lot of rebuilds, just I did rebuilds in downtown Dallas 20 years ago, Of course, we took an old house and then come in and put, or an old lot with, 4 townhomes on it. No, I think the ADUs is going to be a big deal. Rural is a huge opportunity as well. But that's where most builders are kind of staying out of it. But I love the ADU market. I think it's going to be the real saving grace of how to get houses done that people can truly afford.
Yeah, it addresses the affordability issue. I think this kind of gets into the regulatory environment, which is part of our talk, which is how do you, like, ADUs have been blocked from being allowed into a lot of cities. A lot of cities are struggling to, like, figure out how to unlock the ADU market. It's a Portland and a lot of California markets. I think Texas finally went, but I think most of the country is still not doing ADUs, and it's a regulatory thing. It's not that people don't want it. And so I think that sort of the regulation side of, like, our title here is why are we seeing more modular in the world? There's a lot of regulatory barriers that prevent using technologies like this, because either you have to do a lot of testing up front, and that costs a lot of money, and the codes are like, the inspectors are like, oh, I can't see behind this wall. It's like, it's already built. Like, how am I supposed to look at the insulation or well, we have this ESR report, and you don't have to, okay. So there's just this, there's a lot of barriers to getting over the regulatory side for prefab parts across the board. Having said that, I think a lot of that's starting to melt away, especially with this administration. They're trying to just sidestep laws altogether, but they are really, there is an effort to sort of look at how much regulation is hindering the rebuild efforts and how much it's hindering the use of newer technologies that could help rebuild better, faster. So I think there's a ton more work to do there, but the regulation is problematic, and I don't get into that too much, so I can't really go much deeper than that.
Okay, that sounds good. So that was actually going to be my next question. So I think touching on at least some of the broad-based regulations that we see. I know there isn't what's described as a silver bullet. I think in one of our hub reports, I think it was actually one of the sessions we have, it's more of sort of a shotgun approach. You have to pull a number of different levers. Do you feel comfortable speaking to the different levers that can be pulled to help sort of improve the regulatory environment for some of these advanced delivery methods?
Yeah, wow. I'm going to stall. Eric, you got a lever you want to pull right now, top of mind?
Well, I think that, for me, I'll use my own example, is because I was able to start with a panel, I could actually get the engineering done. I could actually go through the inspections. I could actually, get by on some of the. So what I tried to do with panels is I tried to fall and stay under IBC and IRC codes. So I didn't have to fight some of the other regulations or some of the engineering. When I did this SIPS panel, I had to engineer every single house and have it stand. And so those are some of the things that I wanted to kind of bypass. But no, I'm going to put that back to you.
I was just trying to sort through a couple ideas, and anybody else wants to jump in with one. But I think a big way that we deal with regulatory stress, and there's NIMBY and all that, I'm not talking about that, but regulation in general is meant to deal with risk. It's life and safety, it's a risk thing. And we don't have a lot of data. There's not enough data. We do a really crappy job as an industry of tracking data on successful projects and then promoting that and sort of making that well known. And I think the more the regulatory environment sees success with your product, with more modular products, with taller buildings that are going up faster with modular and it's successful, the more the regulation community is sort of going to turn down the heat because they're like, yeah, this is a safe thing. And we're just trying to protect you, and I think we've been in that mode for so long, and that was probably necessary when you just took a bunch of material and dumped it on the job site and a bunch of people showed up and just started building. Like, what the hell's going on out there? Like, we need regulation. Now, that's not really, like, that's changing quickly, where it's not just a bunch of raw materials and a bunch of random labor. It's like engineered products that are showing up that you can track. So we just have a little bit of I think a lot of education we have to do in the regulatory environment, and a lot of like demonstration of success. And yeah, quite frankly, if you think about the inspectors, imagine is anybody an inspector in the room, a building inspector? I mean, it's got to be terrifying if you're out there, like trying to inspect buildings where every day somebody's trying something different, and like it's really a tough job. And I have a lot of respect for those folks. And I think they just put the blinders on and they just follow the book, because if they tried to like deviate, it would just be overwhelming. So those folks are going to find that as more products come out that are pre-engineered and have stamps, and it just gets easier. Their job gets easier, and they can, go home early and not feel stressed, and not everybody's not pissed off the permit office because you haven't gotten my job and I need the inspection and I'm trying to get my COs. And I think we can clean a lot of that up with more modular or more industrialized anything. So it sounds all very easy, but this stuff is like fill every chair up in here and fill up every chair in the other room, and like we all got to put our heads together and go at this. It takes a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets to solve these challenges. This is a $2.2 trillion industry. 1% of that change is tens of billions of dollars to just switch. And I'm a needle guy, so I'm like, the needle right now is way over on the site-built conventional, old school building. It's 80% still. That's how we do it. We need to move that to 50%. Every percent is tens of billions of dollars. It's a huge, huge amount of money. So it's going to take that kind of, I don't know how I would tie that. We have 10 minutes left.
Well, I was going to actually, I think my schedule called for opening it up to Q&A right now, so I'll take a quick minute to do that for folks. I can bring the mic to folks if you have a question.
No, you don't need to bring it. Have you had any conflicts with trades in the field? So you're on site, right? Bringing modular, and commercial sites they'll picket for non-union, or I know like in New York City they had to broker a deal between the carpenters, right? Because the carpenters are doing most of the work in plant, right? And the carpenters start setting glass, right? Which goes into the glazers union, right? And so how do you manage? Have you experienced any of that first? And if you have, how do you manage it?
I've got limited experience in Philadelphia, like the big sort of union markets. We're finding that the unions are initially like, screw this is not good for us, right? We have no interest in this. And slowly I'm finding that they're warming up to it, because they're realizing the same problem that everybody is that there's not enough workers, and if they're going to be a contributor to the problem, then bury your head in the sand and just say, no, we will not let off-site construction in our city. And that's shifting. California's carpentry union actually partnered up with the factory, the modular factory out there, Factory OS. It's going good. It's going great. I was on the board of a modular company in Philadelphia, and we had to get ahead of that. We had to go talk to them and say, look, here's what we're doing. And again, it often gets framed as like a win or loss. It's a 1 or a 0, and that's not the case. There's always all that component stuff that gets made in the factory, it's still at best 50% of the entire building. Still has to go on the site, and there's still electrical work and plumbing work, and all that still has to happen. We don't get rid of trades. But that's sort of how it gets framed, and it's just not true. So I think there's a lot of work to do there, and I see it moving in the right direction. But I just saw the state of New York. So Davis-Bacon Act, I can go way down the nerd hole here, but Davis-Bacon Act basically says if you do a federal project, you have to pay the rates of that project to laborers, and they're trying to apply that to factories. So if you get if you make your panels in Dallas and send it to a federal building in New York City, they want you in Dallas to pay the people who are working on that panel the rates in New York for that project. So you got these crew, and you're like, okay, you guys all just keep doing your thing, and you're getting paid one rate, but no, you're going to work on the New York project, and I need to pay you for the 8 hours. It's just, that's never going to work. And that's a little bit of this sort of labor fight where the modular industry went to battle and won on a national level, and now all of a sudden the state, New York's the first one, is now pushing back on that and saying, no, factory doesn't matter where you are, you got to pay the rates of wherever that building is going to end up going. And, I mean, just logistically, that's just not going to work. You're a factory, you're like, how do I do that? Like, how do I figure that one out? So,
well, they don't want it. They don't want you to. That's the field labor is they resist change because they're experts in the way they do things today. I would suggest that maybe a way is propose a new trade to the unions, maybe even a higher paying trade, right, to offset what they perceive being sucked away from them, right?
Yeah.
Because the battle in the time we argue legislative and all this good stuff, the opportunity's gone, and the owner's building it because they have a need for shelter, manufacturing, whatever they need. So,
well, it sounds like you got a lot of experience with this code.
well, I got experience with the prevailing wage thing.
Yeah, I looked at. I don't know if there's a right answer here, but we have to navigate these.
Yeah.
These are not impossible things to solve. We just can't kill an industry because we have an agenda that I don't want to see the modular industry shipping anything into New York City. Right. That's just, if I'm the governor or the mayor of the city, I'm going, well, this is stupid, because if I want affordable housing, and if that means I'm doing more modular, then that's what we're going to use.
Well, the same project in New York City I was referencing, when it was built out of state too, they wanted to tax it in New York. The state it was built in was Oklahoma, I think, and right to almost a different building code, because Oklahoma, right? And then you got it, I don't know how they ever resolved that, because the tax implications of, because currently, if you're building a $100 million building in that city, the city gets the revenue from that $100 million, they get to tax that. Well, when you're shipping it in component, then they only get to tax the installation, right? They don't get their tax.
Yeah, there's all sorts of nuanced stuff here, but again, it's not impossible to solve these things. We just we're sort of calcified in our little teams, and we're duking it out, and things are changing at a faster and faster rate. And so someday you're just gonna have to wake up, pull your head out of the sand, and go, okay, like, let's negotiate here. We got to figure out a better way, because we're out of options on cost. Things are just too expensive in construction across the board. It's not just housing. It's roads, it's bridges, it's all the infrastructure that we've been talking about here. The water systems are just destroyed, or not destroyed, but they need help. And we don't have enough money to pay for all this stuff. The military, that's why they want to do industrialized construction, because we're broke. Yes.
Want to give Eric a chance to respond?
I'm sorry.
Well, let you add other questions.
No.
Yeah, we can open up somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Hold on.
Anybody, another question from the audience? Got a couple minutes left here.
Nobody's dying to ask a question. Nervous. I don't know if it's a
I
good
will
question.
respond to one
Real
thing.
bad
As a
question.
builder, a stick builder, I think one of the inherent problems that I see with modular construction is talk about how do we adapt. You're using a completely separate crew. The set crew comes in and puts the modular in. But where I see the rub is who's warranting that. Because where I've experienced is the plumber who's putting the plumbing in the ground and putting the electrical to the site. He's accepting a certain responsibility. And so if there's a problem inside the module that showed up, who's really handling that, especially if it came from Oklahoma to New York. And then you're the builder. Like, I got to warranty this for a year, so I'm supposed to call the factory in Oklahoma. I don't know how that works, but as a builder, I'd be very hesitant to address that. Who's going to warranty this? Who's going to take care of the problem? Or if there's a disaster.
It's a good point. It's another, but again, it's just who's going to be responsible for this part, break it all out, do all that beforehand, so that when the problem does happen, you're not all standing there going, not my fault. And our industry is really, really bad when it comes to honestly dealing with each other. We're always, like, don't tell them the real price. Don't tell them when I'm really going to show up. I'm just going to show up on the site. I mean, it's just amazing how unpredictable conversations are in our industry. We constantly tell ourselves, and I'm talking about the construction industry, writ large, we're constantly trying to smoke and mirrors our budgets, what went wrong, whose fault it was, and it's really, and having been on that side of like trying to sift through what went wrong, it's almost impossible. It's like, I don't even care who did it. Like, let me just figure out the physics of why there's mold growing on everything and fix that. But yeah, our industry is just, we've got to get way more professional. I think this digitalization is forcing that because the data now is available and we can track, there's cameras everywhere. We know who put that piece of wallboard up. Now that's not what we need to be doing, like tracking that level, but the information is now there. We just need to organize it, capture it. I think, Jim, you said it best. I mean, all this information that's in the industry, it's like it's all in the dumpster. Nobody looks at it. It's laying on the floor in pieces. And that is where the answer is, of like how we get more efficient and faster.
We've got 1 minute left. So I think I'll close it out. How about that? So I want to thank everybody for coming in. I will say there's not going to be a wrap-up session, but George, the NIT leadership team, will be outside. Thank everybody for coming. I do want to give a shameless plug for the NIT Building Innovation Conference, which is going to be May 19th and 20th in Tysons, Virginia. So please make sure you get on the books for that. Get that on your calendar as soon as you can. I want to thank Eric and Colby for their generous time and helping us prepare here. So. Thank you all.
Plug the whole building design guy.
Yeah.